Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Biz Report, presented by the Sport Management Student Union. I'm Kevin Rossi, and I'll be presenting on sports media. I'm joined today by Kevin Murray, presenting on sports law, and Mike Proska, presenting on sports marketing and business. Later in the episode, we'll talk a little bit about our upcoming event with Ethan Zohn, winner of Survivor Africa, coming to campus next week. First, for the roundup. In sports media this week, ESPN made headlines by laying off 400 employees. That's out of their 7,000 total, so about 5% of their workforce. It makes you wonder if the current system of rights fees is becoming unsustainable. We may be reaching the bubble, as they call it, I guess the sports fiscal cliff. And you also have to wonder what kind of impact this will have on the secondary networks like Fox Sports 1 and NBC Sports if ESPN has to duck out of some negotiations. Although I believe all leagues are wrapped up for a while except for the NBA.
I think it's interesting, Kevin, that thinking about this in a way, if you include new technology aiding the writing process, it's requiring less and less people. They don't need as many investigative reporters because they have Twitter to give them their information. And all the ridiculous amount of money that they're spending on these rights deals that you mentioned is money that they could be giving to salaries, but they're not. They're instead using it that way. So, whether or not it's good or bad for the sports business and sports media landscape I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and I know the Big Lead reported that the layoffs could have been due to the $125 million set that ESPN is planning to build. So I'm sure that's not helping on top of all the rights fees.
That's so ridiculous. Sorry,
it's a bit excessive.
It's really excessive. I like their current set. What's so wrong with it?
Tiger Woods and Sergio Garcia can't find themselves out of the news lately. Sergio Garcia decided to make a fried chicken joke towards Tiger Woods, which was not very funny, as he stepped into Fuzzy Zeller territory. This was after Sergio now infamously imploded at the Players by putting 2 in the drink on 17 and 1 on 18, with Tiger going on to win the championship. Woods rarely tweets or says much of anything of use, but after the comments, he actually tweeted a series of, I believe, 3 tweets saying how he hopes Sergio regrets it and how he was hurt by the comments. Aaron Coleman wrote a column on the Sports Complex about Sergio and his $16 million in endorsements, so we'll see where that goes as we go forward. Fox Sports 1 has hired retired tennis player Andy Roddick for their coverage. I think this could be a very interesting hire, bringing star power to the network. And from what I've heard, at least, it seems like he's very motivated to, really make it as a broadcaster, which, as we see with some of the former athletes, they just kind of go up there and use their name. And a little more tennis. ESPN and the U.S. Open reached a deal, 11 years, $825 million. This is pretty big. No word yet on whether the Tennis Channel will get secondary rights to the tournament. CBS had previously held the rights since 1968, so this is a pretty big change for the tournament.
It's interesting to me because last year was kind of a low year for the U.S. Open, and in terms of viewership, in terms of talking, and just in terms of general conversation about it. So I am not surprised that ESPN bought it because they would love to buy every single sporting event, but I don't know. I just am not really seeing the motivation.
Yeah, I know even despite the relatively low ratings for tennis in general, not just the U.S. Open, ESPN has had a pretty strong commitment to it throughout. So I think this kind of bolsters that a bit. So we'll see if it rises in the future. I mean, I see potential for it. I think what they really need is a big name American to step up, because it's something that they just don't have right now. They don't have their Andy Roddick of the early 2000s or their, Agassi versus Sampras.
Yeah, I also think one of the problems with the ratings in tennis is the schedule. And basically lately the schedule it's so strenuous on the players. We're seeing the main players drop out of the major tournaments. Like Andy Murray just dropped out of the French Open, along with Del Potro, who's the 7th seed. So I feel like that can hurt a lot of the ratings lately. So we'll see how that goes.
And weather last year was also an issue at the U.S. Open, and that never is gonna, it's never gonna help anything when you can't play beyond, a basic drizzle. So
yeah, they refused to go to the retractable roof at the U.S. Open. So now over to Kevin Murray for sports law.
So on Tuesday, it was announced that former Rutgers quarterback Ryan Hart got a little good shove in the right direction from the courts in New Jersey in regards to his lawsuit against EA Sports. Back in 2009, he filed a lawsuit against EA Sports, as I mentioned, claiming that his likeness was used without his consent in the NCAA football game franchises. I wasn't able to find the exact amount that he was suing EA Sports for, but the courts in 2011 ruled that EA's free expression under the First Amendment outweighed Hart's right to control how his name and likeness were used. So this is very appropriate for the time being that the Ed O'Bannon case is still in the media and still in the minds of anybody who's involved in sports business and really athlete welfare, college athletics in general. So I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on the comparisons between this one single player suing EA Sports compared to O'Bannon and hundreds of other players joining together in a lawsuit against video game creators using their likeness.
With the recent lawsuits, the O'Bannon case against the NCAA and then the concussions in the NFL, it seems like players are really kind of jumping on the bandwagons, not really going out for their own suit. Whether it makes sense or not, I guess that's up to the player and their lawyer to decide. I think it's interesting, though, because it really shows a change in the landscape. Obviously, this case with Hart isn't going to be as transcendent as the O'Bannon case, but I think it is showing the general consensus around the NCAA's business model, that it's really not working and that change is on the horizon. Obviously, no matter what happens in the Hart case, the O'Bannon case is looking, by the day more and more likely to be a win for them. Obviously, we'll not be able to tell for a little while, but the O'Bannon case is really what's going to change college sports if it ends up being a victory.
Also, not to toot my own horn, but 2 weeks ago on the Sports Biz Report, I called that Geno Smith would sign with Roc Nation, and here we are today, 2 weeks later. And Geno Smith announced yesterday that he had agreed with Jay-Z's new sports label, Roc Nation, Roc Nation Sports, to sign on as a full-service client. This will be Jay-Z's first full-service NFL client. He originally signed Victor Cruz of the Giants, but that doesn't include contract negotiation. So it'll be interesting to follow whether Geno Smith gets that big billboard in New York City, just like Tim Tebow did when he moved to New York and joined the Jets. We'll see what kind of sway Jay-Z really has in getting this unproven, questionable quarterback in Geno Smith some endorsement deals in New York City.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Now over to Mike for sports marketing.
All right. The first thing I want to talk about this week is the Portland Trailblazers. So for those of you who don't know, the NBA they hold annual sponsorship meetings every year. And last year they started giving out an award to the team who basically has the best local sponsorship promotions, and it's picked by a panel of league executives. So the first year was last year, and that award was won by the Orlando Magic. And this year they narrowed it down to a list of 6, and each of the finalists would present their findings. And it came down that the Portland Trailblazers won this award. So their promotion was with a local burger chain restaurant called Burgerville, and their main idea was to name a hamburger after the team. And this was the first time the company has ever done this and the first time the team has ever done this. So at the start of the season, they ran, for about 5 weeks, they ran a promotion that featured a buy one, get one free Blazer burger.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So the main reason this worked so well is the team promoted it through basically everything. TV, radio, digital outlets, in-arena activation, and even point-of-sale offers at all the restaurants.
Did they give it out if the Blazers reached 100 points?
They did not.
Ooh.
76ers do that with Big Macs. Sadly, they don't often reach 100 points.
What's his name? What's the color commentator? Malik Rose would be disappointed. He's always talking about his free Big Mac. The promotion propelled sales. They saw a double-digit increase in customer store visits during the promotional period, and it became the chain's second highest selling limited-time offer product in the company's 52-year history. So, needless to say, good job, Portland Trailblazers and Burgerville.
First success for the Trailblazers in recent memory.
Since Greg Oden. Oh, wait.
Wow. So the second thing I want to talk about is the Dew Tour and the United States Ski and Snowboard Association. They have been working lately to basically working with the Olympics to make it a qualifying event. So they've been talking for the past about 3 years, and they're about to come to agreements with a deal. And so one of the first things the Dew Tour had to agree to was ceding its control over some of the competition. And so to sanction the event, the USSA had to manage the participation of the U.S. athletes and obviously have a voice in judging because they would be competing for a spot on the Olympic team. And then secondly, this has to deal with sponsorship because the Dew Tour had to help the USSA gain the same sponsors, specifically Mountain Dew. So Ali Sports, who represents the Dew Tour, had to pass on some of their assets and commercial inventory over to the USSA sponsors, and then eventually Mountain Dew agreed to this, along with other sponsors like GoPro, who will now sponsor the Grand Prix Series for the USSA. So this deal basically gives increased TV promotion for the USSA, all their events, because now more of the bigger athletes will be inclined to actually participate because they're actually qualifying for the Olympics. It's not just a waste of their time. So I feel like it's a smart deal. Hopefully for them, they'll see more TV promotion. And
anytime you can get the Olympic name behind something, it can't be a bad thing.
Very big.
Thanks, Mike. Now we'll move on to a quick group discussion about an upcoming Drexel SMTSU event. This Tuesday, in conjunction with the Good Idea Fund, we will be bringing Ethan Zohn to campus. This will be Tuesday, May 28th at 7:30 p.m. in Pisby 120. There will be free food, so there's a big one for all you college students.
Papadakis Integrated Sciences Building, which I've been asked 100 times. Sorry.
The bio
That's
wall.
funny. Ethan Zohn was the winner of Survivor Africa, so all you Survivor fans out there, this is your chance. With the winnings, he started a nonprofit called Grassroots Soccer, which helps people suffering with AIDS in Africa constructively through soccer, because he was a former pro soccer player in Africa, and one of his good friends on the team died of the disease. And he himself is also a 2-time cancer survivor. So he's been through a lot, been a lot of places, and I think he'll have some really interesting lessons to share with everybody in attendance. So just a couple quick questions for the guys here. Kevin Murray, what do you think that Ethan Zohn's message can say to sport management students and just general people, career-wise?
Career-wise, he has so much to provide. We all in the United States strive to do better and strive to make more money and strive to, find the next platform for ourselves. Ethan is just an interesting example because he went on to a reality TV show and won $1 million and then used it to create a nonprofit in Africa to raise awareness for HIV and AIDS. And that's just something that you never hear about happening. Yes, he was previously a professional soccer player, but not in the EPL where he was making millions and millions of dollars a year. He was doing it because he loved it. So yes, this speaking event is going to come with the basis of sports, but it's just going to provide incredible life lessons and come from a place that's much different than just I like to play soccer, so I created a charity. He really did it because that's what he cared about, because his best friend passed away from the disease. So I think it's definitely a great event to come out to, not only inspirationally, but also professionally. It shows where you can succeed. Maybe he's not the richest person in the world. Maybe he didn't use his $1 million and invest it and go out and make more millions. But he did it in a way where he bettered himself on the inside.
Right. Mr. Proska, what does this event mean for the Drexel SMTSU going forward, getting our name out there as a group?
Well, I think this is a big event for us. We contacted Ethan and brought him in. He he has the background in sports, which is where we are. But I think what he's really going to talk about is overcoming the hardships, not only in our careers, but just in life. And it's going to be big for us because hopefully, everyone should really come out. It's going to be a great talk. He's great to listen to. He's very inspiring.
Funny too.
Very funny too. And he's very lively. And that's why I think it's going to be really good. But as for the SMTSU, basically, we're just hoping that people will realize what we're doing. We're really trying to be engaging with all of our members and people who are even interested in joining. And hopefully this event will do that for us. And then people who come out will learn about some other events we have coming up in the future and just more about the organization.
All right. Great. Thanks, Mike. So again, that's Ethan Zohn, Survivor Africa winner, grassroots soccer founder, and former professional soccer player in Africa, coming to Drexel, and two-time cancer survivor. 7:30 p.m. Tuesday, May 28th. 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 28th. Ethan Zohn in Pisby 120. You don't want to miss this one. And for that, that's the Sports Biz Report for the week. We will be back next Friday. In the meantime, check out the blog and follow us on Twitter at Drexel SMTSU.